Makeup Revolution has a new release, and I haven't bought anything from Makeup Revolution as far as like new releases in quite a long time. And these were released on the Makeup Revolution site along with two other palettes. They're a part of the Iconic collection. And I decided to pick a couple of them up because they just looked absolutely stunning and I wanted to get my hands on them, and they were super affordable. Today we're going to be doing a full product review of these two eyeshadow palettes, and I'm going to give you guys my unfiltered thoughts and opinions on these eyeshadow palettes. So if you guys are new here, my name is Stacy. I feature unfiltered makeup opinions, honest reviews, and I also have the Unfiltered series. Definitely go check that out, but after you watch this video. And if you are new here and you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below, hitting the like button, and leaving me a comment. And what it does is it tells YouTube you like this video and other people are going to like it too, and people need to see more of me, so it pushes this video through the algorithm so more people can see more of my beautiful face. I'm ready to show you guys all about these eyeshadow palettes. I've not put them on my eyes yet, but I have had a chance to swatch them, so I will show you guys swatches and we will do a couple eyeshadow tutorials with these eyeshadow palettes. The two eyeshadow palettes that I ended up purchasing, there were 4 released total, and these are all part of the Icon collection, Icon Shadow collection. The two that I ended up purchasing, the first one is this one is the True Icon, which this is like a rose gold, bronzy color story. And then we have the Eternal Icon, and this one is like a green, purple. It's a little bit more grungy fall tones. They retail for $12. There's also 2 more shades. There is the Smoky Icon, the Enchanted Icon. I picked up these two because they were very reminiscent of some palettes that we have already seen released that are from very, very high-end brands, but these are $12. So here's the inside of the eyeshadow palette. It is a plastic case. It is like rose gold, so it's kind of like cheap packaging feeling, but that honestly doesn't surprise me because this is a $12 eyeshadow palette from Makeup Revolution. It is currently only available on revolutionbeauty.us. I haven't seen it on like Ulta or anywhere that Makeup Revolution is sold, so I've only been able to find it on the official Makeup Revolution website, and I will link the products in the description box down below, so go check that out. But these two eyeshadow palettes, the way that they were specifically designed is they have a whole row of like foily shades, and then they have a whole row of matte shades, and then on the very end you have 2 cream shades, which I actually have the cover on it right now so that the powder product doesn't mix in with the cream product. And then we have the same thing for the Eternal palette. You have 2 cream shades here. Again, the plastic is on because I don't want the powder to get in here. You have a whole row of foil shades, and then you have a whole row of matte shades. So the cream eyeshadows are specifically designed to be either like a base or, you know, a starting shade to go with, or you can use it as like for winged liner, that sort of thing. The Eternal Icon, it's a caramel and toasted cocoa creams with warm khaki nude mattes that complement gold and green metallics. So it does have a lot of really beautiful gold green metallics. It has like a really beautiful creamy rose gold shade in here. And then the True Icon is a mauve and brown creams. It meets warm brown nude mattes accompanied by terracotta, mauve, and bronze shimmer shades. And the True Icon is the reason why I picked up these two eyeshadow palettes specifically, because it really mimics an eyeshadow palette that's like $70, and it's expensive and it's a lot of money. Can you guys tell what this eyeshadow palette looks like? If you guys guessed it, it mimics the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 2 palette, which is like a rose gold themed eyeshadow palette. And that eyeshadow retails for $70. $70. This eyeshadow palette, obviously like the Makeup Revolution one, $12. You can buy them on revolutionbeauty.com. There wasn't really a specific eyeshadow palette that this one reminded me of. It kind of reminded me of a Huda Beauty release, like the grungy ones. And it was kind of like that, but kind of not really. It was just one that really intrigued me. It's a very like fall-esque color story. I don't know why I'm talking about fall when we are, you know, in the middle of summer and I look all glowy and glossy and dewy. 12 shades overall, 2 creams, and then we have 5 shimmers, and then we have 5 mattes. So I actually wanted to play with this today. I would like to make note of these two specific eyeshadow palettes that when I swatched them, I did the swatches in natural light. They actually like stained my wrists really, really bad when I was actually doing the swatches. And that's a good note to make if you are wanting to put the creams on your lids. Make sure that you prime your lids first, because like obviously I didn't prime my arms when I did those swatches, but we're gonna actually prime my lids and we're gonna try and put on as many of these shades as possible to give you guys like a good overall feel of what I think the quality is of these eyeshadow palettes. Now, another thing to make note is that when I was actually swatching the True Icon, which is the one like the Patrick Ta, I also noticed that the foil shades are super buttery, super creamy, and the mattes were also very buttery, and they seem to just go on my swatches, like my arm, a heck of a ton better. Now, the Eternal, this one, not so much. I had a lot of hard time with the Eternal palette, getting some of these to swatch, especially the matte shades, and the foils just kind of felt like a little bit hard in the pan, and they definitely were a different consistency compared to the True Icon. And there was also a shade in the Eternal palette that was like really shocking, which was the shade right here, and it's actually like a rose gold cream. I didn't know it was a cream shade, so keep that in mind as well. This is like a cream, and you guys can see like I dug my finger into it. I like totally destroyed it. It is not by any means like a powder formulation for a foil. It is cream. It's cream, and it really blew me away. That was the one shade in the Eternal palette that blew me away upon impression of swatching them. So we're going to take this palette right here. Now, one thing I also have to know about the packaging, yes, we know that the packaging is a little bit like flimsy and a little bit cheap, but one thing that I don't like is that it's just a clear little plastic sheet for those cream shades. So like you're gonna have to save the clear little plastic sheet like what I have right here, so that you are able to use these shades and not get them all mixed together. I wanted to also make note that the cream shades, especially in the True Icon, really stunning, really beautiful, but those were the ones that stained the most. So we're gonna go in, they don't have any names. It's just 1 through 12. It does say that 3 with a star, I believe. It says it's a pressed powder. So this one is a pressed powder, whereas the rest of them are not pressed powders. So that's a good thing to note. Another thing I did want to note when I was swatching before we applied this to my eyes is that these two shades in swatch looked very, very similar. So I'm wondering how they're going to look on the eye as well. But in swatch form and on my arm, they looked very much the same. So what I'm doing is I'm laying down I'm going to do a full layer of color, and we're going to just take it right up to the crease. These cream shades are super emollient, so they're like super creamy. And what comes to mind when I touched these, and now as I'm using it, is the cream bronzer from Makeup Revolution. That is a gorgeous bronzer, and it's very emollient as well. It's very like melty, but it blends into the skin like butter, and it blends so seamlessly and so beautifully. So this is doing the same thing. And I'm actually taking a double-ended brush from Anastasia, and we're applying it this way because I don't want to get cream product all over my Singe brushes and my Sigma brushes. So we're just using this one. But look how nicely that blended out. I could definitely see if you're like into a one and done shade that all you do is like slap like one of these colors on over the cream, and it would probably last for a very long time. But we're also going to see how these creams wear throughout the day, because it is like super, super humid outside today for me where I live, and I want to see how these shadows are going to stack up, especially with this like cream base with the cream primer, like all that kind of stuff. We're going to take the E38 from Sigma Beauty. We're going to use this shade right here. It's like the second lightest matte shade, and I think this is just going to deepen up the crease just a little bit, and it'll just kind of set that cream shade into place. It actually almost looks like a powder version of that cream. So I can't really tell if it's like blending out a lot. I'm also going to take a little bit of this shade right here and we're going to start filtering this onto the lid. I want to see how these blend out, which I actually need a mirror. So we're still taking this shade right here. This is a very warm, like almost terracotta shade. And we are blending this into the outer corner and a little bit into the crease. And now that I have it a little bit on the outer corner, I'm going to also add in a little bit of this shade right here, and we're just going to like really deepen this up. Do they have fallout? Do they blend well over this cream product? Like, how do they perform? Because they're meant to be used together, so we need to know how they perform together. I have a Sigma E45. It's like a pencil brush, and I'm actually going to take this darkest shade right here, not the cream shade, the one right next to it. And we are going to pop this also on the outer corner, but this is tapered, so it actually gives it a little bit easier of a way to blend out, and it's really going to concentrate the color on the outer corner. They're blending nicely on my lid over the cream product and over the eyeshadow primer. So definitely surprised. I haven't used Makeup Revolution shadows in like a hot minute. I don't remember the last time I actually used Revolution shadows. Everything looks scary all over my lids. I definitely agree. It looks a little bit scary, but I'm going to take this shade right in the middle here. This one's kind of got like a greenish shift to it and it's a little bit champagne. We're going to pop this right in the middle. I want like a halo eye today because I'm feeling the halo. And then we'll see how this applies as well. Like when I touch this, it is so creamy and it is very like easy to pat onto the eye and it's like super pigmented. So far I am liking the shimmer shades and I'm also liking the way that the matte shades look. I look super scary. So I'm going to take my beauty blender. We're going to tap away some of the product right here just to give it a little bit more of an edge. And this is just a beauty blender. Now you could put tape on, you could actually apply your makeup before, like you could apply this before you decided to put, you know, your foundation on, but I decided to go all gung-ho and, you know, put on my makeup before doing my eyeshadow today. But one thing I do want to make note, there is no fallout. I'm not getting fallout at all with this formula, and it really is nice. So I'm taking this brush from Sigma. You have the E24. It's just like a flat blendy brush. I love this brush because it's really nice to get on the lower lash line if you want a blown out lower lash line, and it's really nice to get up into the crease as well and just kind of like clean everything up. Again, it still looks a little bit scary, but we're okay. We are not done yet. I'm going to take my blending brush. This is again the E38. I use the Sigma switch. We're going to just place this on the brow bone. We're using the lightest shade. We're placing this on the brow bone, and this will also clean up. And what I'm actually going to do is take some of the shade because it's very similar in tone to my skin. We're actually going to help diffuse out those edges like underneath the lower lash line as well. I do like that this was included in the palette. It makes it easier to be able to like blend things out, and it looks really, really nice. I need an inner corner highlight. I'm going to wet this down. This is just a flat brush. It's like a double-ended Anastasia brush. You could use any flat brush, but we have this shade over here. It's a really nice champagne shade. And we're going to just gently tap. We're going to place this right in the tear duct to hopefully just add a little bit of shine to the inner corner. Not a lot of fallout with that one either. Really pretty. I think I just need to build up like the middle a little bit, and I feel like we need to layer a little bit more onto it. So I'm going to actually take this shade right here. We're going to pop this one on too. I mean, I told you guys, we're going to use like every single shade that we can to make this look possible. So this one is a little, like these look like the same shade, but I think this one has like a green yellow, like a greenish shift. This one has like a purple pink shift. So they're a little bit different and they are dual chromatic. So that's actually really nice to have in a palette like this because usually like dual chromes and multi-chromes, they aren't in eyeshadow palettes, especially from Makeup Revolution. So this is what we are looking like without any type of mascara, and I look scary. Now I'm gonna go in with my mascara, and then we'll see like how everything looks like pulled together with the first palette, the True Icon. This is my completed full face of makeup. We are back with the second eyeshadow palette, the Eternal Icon palette from Makeup Revolution. We're going to do a simple tutorial today with this eyeshadow palette. I'm actually, like, this eyeshadow palette in particular, just like thoughts on this eyeshadow palette, it definitely reminds me of more of like a fall eyeshadow palette. So I'm kind of like, I kind of want to play with it, but I kind of don't. So I'm sorry guys, like it does really remind me of like fall, and we're in like almost 100-degree weather where I'm living right now. So like that's just the whole thing beside itself. But just to let you guys know, like my vibes from this eyeshadow palette are that it's like really, really fall, or even just like really romantic eyeshadow looks, more of like a nighttime eyeshadow look. Now I do appreciate the fact that it has like some of these more skin tone shades in here. They will work for somebody who is like pasty pale like me, but I don't think it's going to work for somebody who is a little bit darker in skin tone. So that I wanted to make note of as well. And the reason why I'm going to be so adamant about wearing an eyeshadow primer, as you guys like hear me like through my bag and stuff, is because when I swatched it, and this was, I still have like marks on my arm from swatching it, and that was actually a couple days ago. So like we're on day 2 of like filming with these eyeshadow palettes, and I don't want stained eyelids, so that's why we're looking for my eyeshadow primer. But I don't see where it went. Where did you go, eyeshadow primer? So we're using the Sigma eyeshadow base primer in the shade Ignite. I like this because it just provides like a non-oily, sticky, tacky base. And when I did wear the True Icon palette the other day, I didn't get any like stains on my eyes, which is good because I was very apprehensive about getting stains on my eyes, even with an eyeshadow primer, because sometimes that can still happen even when you have an eyeshadow primer. So that, yeah, it can definitely happen. And I really just don't want stained lids, so I want an eyeshadow primer that's going to work well with this product. The Eternal palette, like I said. Okay, we're going to remove the little plastic. I still think that these are just ridiculous to have in this palette. Like, why couldn't you just invest in like a little flap that flips up? That's my personal and humble opinion on it. But I mean, yeah. So we're actually going to take, I have like a concealer brush, but they have this really nice like, and already the powder has gotten into, from me swatching, the powder got into this cream shade. So I'm actually going to take this cream shade and just tap this on the lid. This is actually the same shade as the concealer. So I'm kind of curious, like maybe I could actually use this one as not just a, like I could probably use this as like an eyeshadow base. And it's actually, this could actually be a really good, like if you want to do a cut crease, I think that would be really good for it. And then we have this shade right here. This is a really dark pigmented shade. I'm actually going to take that double-ended Anastasia brush again. I'm going to take it's like a fluffy flat side, and we're going to dip into this like cream shade right here. I am going to kind of sheer it out on the side, like so, where you just kind of take it and sheer it out a little bit. And I'm going to draw a line like this on my lid, very ever so slightly, drawing a line, kind of just like winging it and creating like a triangle on the outer corner. And then I'm going to go in and blend, because I want to see how these cream shadows work. This is one of the cream shadows that like it stained really bad. I'm like looking out over there. So, and then I'm just taking that fluffy end and we're just going to pack it on the outer corner too, just a little bit. Just flip the brush over and add that to the crease. But I don't want to do too much because it really did like stain my lid. So we're going to do that again. We're going to draw on this side. Now, hopefully this gives like a powder dry down. We will find out in just a minute. I do like that it's like a plummy shade, but it's a very subtle plum. and it's purple, and it's actually blending out like rather nicely. Then we're just taking a little bit on the end of the fluffy side and going in and like adding a little bit of dimension right here. That's with the cream products. My lids feel kind of like tacky and sticky, and like I don't know if I like it or not. We're gonna go in with a little, it's like almost a brownish purple. It's not quite all purple, but I'm taking a E40 from Sigma, and we're just tapping into this very, very, very lightly. Like I said, I feel like this could be like mostly a like nighttime palette. I don't know if I'd be able to get like use out of it during the day or even in like fall. This reminds me more of like a fall color story. So we're very delicately like placing the color on the brush, and then we're diffusing it out on top of that cream shadow. Like the True Icon palette is definitely one of those where you could dress it up, dress it down, and it has that range of shades in there. But I feel like this has a lot of like, it's either a couple light shades and then the rest of it's like a dark tone. So I'm gonna see how this works on my lids. It is really pretty. But it is blending out really nicely too. That's a good thing to make note because in the past, Makeup Revolution shadows have not really been like the best for me, but it is really pretty. Okay, what shade do we want to try now? I'm actually going to use a little bit of this, and we're using an E45 from Sigma. This is almost like a mauve pink shade. It has like a pinkish undertone, but I'm actually just going to place this all along the inner corner and kind of like diffuse it out. You'll see it's a little bit pink in nature, and it's almost skin tone for me, but it has a little bit of color to it. And then I am going to take this same brush. I want to use a little bit of the green right here, just a teeny tiny bit. I want to put this on the outer corner. We're gonna get some of that like khaki green in there. The green, khaki green, just a little bit like this. I'm like tapping it on and then pulling it into my eye and kind of like right below the crease, you'll see. So it's a little bit of green in there. That one is performing pretty well. I would definitely say the purple one by far, like I think that performed pretty nicely as well. And purples are a hard formulation. So let's go into the deeper purple shade. Just a teeny tiny little bit we're going to put on the outer corner as well, just to deepen it up. And I'm actually focusing this more along the lash line, and we still have that same brush, but we're just focusing it like right here. I'm taking the pointed end, applying and dragging out just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'll have to play with that purple shade more and kind of give you guys a thought on that, because purple shades really are hard to like formulate. Now we're going to take this shade, which if you guys remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that it's actually like a cream shade, because as soon as I press into it, it is literally like, it's very like spongy, very cream feeling. So this is what it looks like on my finger, and it is wet. Like this is a wet shadow. Even in the pan it's wet. So we're just gonna dab this right here, and it's almost like a bronzy gold shade. It's actually really pretty, but you can tell by the way that it's clinging to my eye that it is kind of a wet formula. It's an interesting shade to say the least. Like this is just very interesting. So we're just placing this right in the middle, kind of diffusing it out on both sides. I actually kind of placed it a little bit further in instead of like right in the middle, but you guys can see that. And it's wet. Like this is wet. So I'm going to see if it dries down and I can like blend it into the other colors. And if I can, that's awesome. If I can't, and I have this like weird line, like what you guys, it's like a little bit of a line right here. If I have a little bit of a line, that's not cool. So we're going to see if it does like almost a powder dry down and see how it works. But it is a very interesting shade. When you read the description of the palette, it doesn't say that it's a cream shadow palette. Like it doesn't say it's a cream at all. Like so I'm going to take the EO4 from Singe, and we're going to try, oh yeah, okay, so it's blending. That's good. That's good, right? That's good. And it did like smudge It smudged the edges just a little bit. So that's not terrible. But I do feel like because it's a wet shadow, it could have more of an impact and it doesn't. Like it's subtle, which is pretty, but like it could, because it's a wet formula, I feel like it could have more of an impact. So I'm going to take it on the back of this brush and like maybe just pat it on like that and see how it works. Because it's definitely almost like a creamish consistency. It's like the weirdest shade. Like look at it. It's like it's like a cream and it's very soft. It's pretty, don't get me wrong. Like super pretty. I kind of feel like a Grecian goddess with my makeup looking like this, like all like golden feeling and like purpley feeling. I kind of do feel like a Grecian goddess just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm going to take this shade right here, same brush, the EO4. We're going to just diffuse the lower lash line, and if some of that shade is on there, I actually welcome it because I think that would be really pretty to have like little flecks of like bronzy gold on the lower lash line. It'd be kind of a different take on makeup. So we're going to stick the little plastic thing back on top. I don't understand why you would, like this little plastic thing, obviously you can remove and put back on, but at some point the adhesion to it is not going to work and it's going to get like powder all over that product. And I don't know how I feel about that. So yeah, I really don't know how I feel about that. And then I'm going to apply my mascara, and then I'm going to show you guys like what it looks like with like everything done and give you guys my final thoughts and first impressions on these eyeshadow palettes. We have mascara on. I look complete, and we have two eyeshadow looks with these eyeshadow palettes from Makeup Revolution, and they retail for $12 each. So I wanted to give you guys my unfiltered thoughts on each one of these palettes. Let's start with this one because it's fresh in my brain from just using it. And then we'll talk about the True Icon palette as well. So we have the Eternal palette, which is like khakis, it is greens, and it is like purples. I definitely think that this eyeshadow palette would be perfect for fall. Like this is a good eyeshadow palette for fall. Not so much summer because it's super dark in tone with a lot of the shades in here, and they just don't remind me of summer at all. Overall, quality-wise, I think that this eyeshadow palette is a little bit more hard-pressed in pan. Like when I was swatching it, we tried quite a few of the mattes today, and I really like the matte formula in these. They're actually really good, and they blend out really, really nicely. Even the purple shades, they did a really decent job. Now, we did just use one foil shade, and it's really, really weird in texture, the way that it works. It kind of feels like a cream. It does kind of blend out on the lid with a brush, but not really. It's a very weird texture in general, and I just don't know how I feel about it yet. I do need to try the rest of the foil shades, but when I swatched the foil shades in this eyeshadow palette, it was very hard pressed. They weren't like buttery and silky smooth like the True Icon palette, which we'll get to in a minute. But I do think it is a pretty good palette for $12. Like I said, the mattes are really pretty. This color story is just very fitting for fall. The cream shades, the purple one does stain. So put an eyeshadow primer on. This one actually isn't that bad, and I think that you could do a really nice like cut crease with this if you're into cut creases, and it's actually a really good eye base eyeshadow primer if you want to use it for that instead. And they do seem to dry down to a powder finish, and they do actually blend really nicely because the creams are really emollient on the eye. Okay, let's talk about the True Icon palette and give you guys my final thoughts on this one. This one is definitely a Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 dupe. I definitely 100% agree with that. Honestly, out of these two palettes, I think this one is phenomenal. I think out of these two palettes, it's the best one. Now I'm kind of wishing I would have picked up the other two, but I digress. I only picked up the ones that really came of interest to me. I think that this shade is really nice. I feel like this shade is really similar to the one in the Eternal palette. So like if you have both of these, they're really, really similar in tone. It's almost like it's almost too warm to be a liner, but it's also too dark to be like an eyeshadow, if that makes sense. Although I could see like maybe smearing this across the lid and then putting one of the shimmer shades over it and having almost like a holographic moment going with like a dark base. You could do something like that. The mattes in this palette are stunning, and the foils in this palette are very, very buttery, very easy to use, very easy to blend out, and I just think that this palette is a showstopper. For $12, it's really good. Now you guys have heard my complaint about the packaging. The little sleeve that they put over the cream product is not going to stay in place. I don't know what I'm going to do about that when it fails. Like, I really don't know. I would have paid a couple extra dollars for the little flap to be plastic so that I could actually like open it instead of having like a little plastic flap in there. Honestly, my personal opinion. But overall, I think these are great. I think that Makeup Revolution stepped up their eyeshadow game quite a bit with these eyeshadow palettes, especially with this one. Very, very good quality. Great blendable, beautiful mattes. Pigmented, buttery foils in this one. This one's pretty good as well. The foils are a little bit so-so, but I will have to test these ones out more and see how I like them and give you guys my final thoughts. But that's my first impression of these two. If you guys want to see like a 3 looks, 1 palette, or 2 looks with each palette, definitely leave me a comment down below. I would love to know. But if you guys want to see more content like this, unfiltered makeup opinions and honest reviews, if you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button before you go, ringing the bell, and liking this video, and then leaving me a comment down below. It does push this video up, so if people are interested in these eyeshadow palettes, they can actually see it, they can watch it, and it tells them that it's a good video. So thanks guys, and I hope I get to see you in my next video. Bye!